Hey you guys, what's up? In today's video, I'm going to be testing out the brand new Viseart Petit Pro palette. I picked up the Midsummer and Solstice palettes. So these are their newest Petit Pro palettes. These are like their summer versions, I guess, of this palette. I have actually never tried any of Viseart's eyeshadows. I've always wanted to, but they are pretty expensive, so I've never tried them out before, but I did pick up both of these. The price of these palettes are $30 each. So first up, we have the Petit Pro Midsummer palette, which is a really pretty kind of mauve palette. Here is what the outer packaging looks like. There is this little thing right here that you pull up and then the actual palette opens up. So here are the shades in this palette. Let's go ahead and do some swatches. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the top row. So these didn't like swatch the best, but as I've told you guys in like previous videos, I don't always rely on like arm swatches to tell if like an eyeshadow palette is good, because sometimes palettes swatch really bad and then they perform really good on the eyes. So even though these didn't swatch the best, I am not like disappointed yet based on how they swatched. All right, so next up we have the Petit Pro Solstice palette, which is more of like an orangey peach palette. And then the actual palette is also this really pretty orange. And we have the little tab to pull. And then here are the shades. So here are the shades up close. Let's go ahead and do some swatches. So the dark brown did swatch better than the previous shades. Those do not look so good. So the Solstice palette did not swatch the best either on the arms, so I'm really hoping that these do well on the eyes. But yeah, so now we're gonna go ahead and try both of these out on the eyes. I am gonna be doing one palette on one eye and then the other on the other eye. So first thing I'm gonna do is take my P. Louise base and I'm gonna go ahead and prime my lids with this just like I always do. All right, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and start out with the Midsummer palette first, and I'm going to do that on my left eye here. So I'm first gonna pick up this dark, kind of like purplish brown, and I'm just going to kind of map out the shape of my eye. I'm gonna do just like what I would normally do because I wanna give these palettes like a fair shot. I don't wanna like try and do a different type of like eye look or technique and then I don't like them, so I'm just gonna try them out how I would normally do my eyeshadow. I just went ahead and moved a little bit closer so you guys can really see. Honestly, this has way better pigmentation on the lids than it did when I was swatching it. So this is gonna start off a little bit messy, but I'm gonna kind of blend it out later. So I'm gonna take the same shade and I'm just gonna start kind of connecting it over here and running this along the lower lash line. So now I'm gonna pick up this kind of like dark pink shade right here. And on a little blending brush, this is a Sigma E36 brush. It's like one of my favorite blending brushes. I get asked that all the time what brush this is. I'm just gonna start blending this above the lash shade. And also like immediately I feel like it has better pigmentation than it did when I swatched it with my finger. I'm also going to run this along the lower lash line. And now I'm gonna pick up this shade right here. Once again on like a little blending brush, and starting from the inner corner, I'm just gonna blend this like above the lash shade and then kind of backwards a little bit. On that same blending brush, I'm just going to lightly blend this along the lower lash line. All right, so I am actually like pleasantly surprised. I was worried after how those swatched, but the mattes really did go on very nicely. They were really easy to work with. They're really soft and they do blend out really nicely. I haven't had any issues so far blending. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut my crease off camera really quick, and then I'll be back to try out the shimmery shades in this palette. So I think I'm going to use maybe like 1 or 2 shimmery shades. I haven't decided yet, but I'm first going to take this shade right here, and I'm just going to put this on the inner part of my lid. This shade is a super pretty, kind of like light pink. So now I'm going to take this shade right here and put this on the rest of my lid. This is a really interesting shade. I feel like it's kind of like a pink, but then it's like there's almost like blue or purple like undertones in here. It's kind of like a duochrome type shade. It is really pretty though. All right, so here is this eye complete. Honestly, I love the way that it turned out. The eyeshadows definitely perform so much better like with brushes on the eye than they swatched. Like honestly, I was really freaking out a little bit when I was swatching those. So yeah, I'm really happy with how the eye turned out. So I'm gonna go ahead and like finish off this side, and then we're gonna go ahead and move over to the other side and try out the Solstice palette. All right, so now that this eye is complete, we're gonna go ahead and jump over into the Solstice palette. I'm actually really excited for this one, even though it did not swatch well, just because I always like a warm toned eye. It's kind of like my thing that I like. So I'm gonna go ahead and start out with this deep brown right here, and I'm just gonna do the same thing. I'm going to kind of map out my crease just so I know how I want the shape to be. This is just what I always like to do. I know some of you guys know that I do this, but I know a lot of people get like offended whenever I do my eyeshadow from darkest to light. I'm really sorry if this is offending you guys. What I'm really impressed with so far is like the lack of fallout. These are not like powdery at all. They feel like very nice, very easy to blend. Good pigmentation like on the eye, like look at that, and it's swatched like not good. So I'm still kind of shocked about that. I'm also going to kind of put this on the lower lash line once again, connecting over here. So now I'm going to pick up the shade right here, and I'm just going to start blending this above that dark brown. Once again, on the eyes, this shade has very, very good pigmentation. So that is why I say always when I do swatches, like you cannot trust the swatches because they just like go on the eyes so well, even though they did not swatch well. I'm also going to blend this shade underneath the dark brown on the lower lash line. So now I'm going to take this matte shade right here, and once again, I'm just going to blend it above the previous shade. I'm also going to blend some of this along the lower lash line, kind of connecting it over here at the outer corner. So now once again, I'm gonna go ahead and cut my crease off camera, and I will be right back. So now moving on to this lid, I think I'm gonna use like these 3 shades probably. I'm really tempted to use this shade, but I feel like it doesn't really go with the look that I just created. I'm gonna go ahead and just pick up this light gold right here first, and I'm just gonna put this right here on the inner part of my lid. Such a pretty gold, like look at that. So now I'm going to pick up this shade right here, which is a little bit more of like a bronze. And I'm just going to kind of go a little bit over with it. And now I'm going to use this shade right here to finish up the lid. So this eye is now complete. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply some mascara, and then I will be back to give you guys my final thoughts. All right, you guys, so here are both eyes complete. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like kind of shocked with how the looks turned out because I was a little bit scared these were not gonna be good just based on the first swatches that I did, but I really love how both eyes turned out. If I had to pick one eye, it would probably be this one just because I'm more into warm toned palettes, but this one is a really pretty kind of like cool toned pinkish mauve palette. So actually, I feel like these are worth the $30. I can definitely see myself reaching for these. And what I think is like the best thing, now that I sat here and I've been thinking about this, I feel like the best thing about these little palettes like this is that you will use all of the shades, because I have so many eyeshadow palettes and all of my palettes are pretty much like big palettes. I never ever use like all of the shades in palettes, but I feel like with these two palettes, I will definitely be using like all of the shades in here. And I feel like these are perfect for like every day. They're super easy to create looks with because you have like the perfect amount of shades. You have your transition shades, your like medium toned matte shades, and then they each have one dark matte shade, and then the shimmery shades are also gorgeous. I think that this palette has less shimmery shades. There are 5 mattes in here, 2 shimmery like metallic shades, and then this one is almost kind of like a satin. You can barely tell, but there's a little bit of gold glitter in there. And then this one is even, it's half mattes, half shimmers. So I'm actually really impressed with these palettes. I guess I should have tried out Viseart palettes sooner, but I had just never wanted to spend the money on them because I was nervous that I wasn't gonna like them, and then they're like super expensive. So that's why I decided to jump on these since they are $30 palettes. I feel like that was a good price for what you get. I feel like they're definitely worth it. I was really worried, you guys, like seriously, that I wasn't gonna like these, but I ended up loving how the looks turned out, and the eyeshadows really did perform very nicely. So if you guys have been wanting to try out Viseart eyeshadow palettes, I would definitely recommend any of the Petite Pro palettes. I believe that they do have more than just these 2 versions. These are just their newest ones. So if you like cool toned eyeshadows, pinks, purples, I would recommend the Midsummer palette. And then if you are more into warm tone shades, obviously you should get the Solstice palette. And this one also does have this really pretty pink shade over here. I wish I would have tried it out. It's swatched really pretty, but I'll have to use these again. So yeah, I can definitely see myself reaching for these and getting a lot of use out of these. So yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I'm gonna have both of these palettes linked in my description box below if you guys want to check them out. Also, I'm doing a huge giveaway right now. You guys do not want to miss out on that. I'll have it linked in my description box below if you guys want to enter that. And also make sure you guys click the bell next to the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my upcoming videos. All you have to do is click the bell next to the subscribe button, and then you'll receive a notification every time I upload a new video. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching.